And we are joined right now, ladies and gentlemen, by Kris Kobach. He's the Secretary of State of the great state of Kansas, and he's also the newly appointed co-chairman, appointed by President Donald Trump last week, of the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. Mr. Secretary, great to talk to you again, sir.
Great to be with you.
All right, so talk about what the purpose of this commission is.
The purpose is to look at the problem of voter fraud and voting irregularity, voter roll problems from a national perspective. It's never been done. I can tell you all kinds of cases of voter fraud we found in Kansas, but I can't speak to the other 49 states with authority. This commission will actually dig deep, bring out the statistics, put them on the table, let the public see them, and hopefully shed a lot of light on this debate.
You know, it's interesting, before we get to the mantra of the left, that, you know, voting fraud occurred, 5 times in the history of the free world. Just the reaction by the press to your appointment has been, just nuts. It's seeker of Kansas voter fraud gets a national soapbox. That's the New York Times story. Then you got the ACLU themselves. Kris Kobach, the king of voter suppression, will lead Trump's sham voter fraud commission. Be afraid, be very afraid. What is it about the quest to make sure that one of our most precious rights is treated the same way as when you go to a bank, when you go to a doctor, when you go to the DMV? What's the problem?
You know, it's bizarre how crazy some people on the left side of the spectrum get when you start talking about voter fraud. You know, the ACLU's been locked in battle with my state, and I'm litigating that case. I'm an appellate litigator as well. And we have proof of citizenship in Kansas. We're one of 4 states that require you to prove that you are a U.S. citizen when you register to vote. And the ACLU is just determined that proof of citizenship must die. They do not want states asking people to prove that they are U.S. citizens when they check a box on the voter registration form saying they're U.S. citizens. We've got over 100 cases of aliens we can identify who checked that box, said they were U.S. citizens, and they weren't, and many of them voted. And we've had experts look at our case, look at our state, and extrapolate and say the number's probably close to 18,000, as high as 18,000 aliens on our voter rolls. These are problems, and whenever you want to shed some light on the issue, you do hear people like the ACLU, like Chuck Schumer, reacting to this commission, saying that the commission shouldn't even begin its work. And my question is, okay, what are you afraid the commission's going to find? Because if you're so dead set against this commission, look, if you're right, Chuck Schumer, and voter fraud doesn't exist, then this commission will do you a great service. We won't be able to find any, and we will make your case for you. But of course, they want to turn a blind eye to the issue. So, and by the way, it's a bipartisan commission. So
right.
The notion that because I'm vice chair of it, somehow I control it, that's silly. I'm just one of a dozen or so votes.
Well, let me ask you this. To me, it always seems like it's racist to say, I would almost said imply, but not imply, but say that blacks, minorities, they can't get an ID, they can't afford an ID. Well, then how do they survive? How do they live? I mean, what do you mean blacks and poorer people or minority people can't get a picture taken? I mean, to me, that's racist to its core.
Yeah, I agree. The argument, I think some people who oppose photo ID have been looking for an argument. Well, why, on what basis can we oppose this? And some of them, make what I think is an implausible claim that it's that a person's skin color affects his ability to reach into his wallet and pull out a driver's license, or to go to a government agency and get a free government ID. We'll see, though. We'll see what the facts show. But, I know in Kansas it has not disproportionately affected people by race, and Kansans like our photo ID requirement.
All right. You, I believe, have said that there is federal data that can be looked into and resolve this question of voter fraud and prove, I guess, that there is voter fraud, or at least find out. Where is that federal data? Has it not been looked at in the past? And is that going to be a focal point of the commission?
It will be one of the things we look at. So one thing that's never been done in the past is the Department of Homeland Security has a list of every non-citizen, every alien in America who's here on a green card or here on a temporary visa. States like Kansas, we have asked the Obama administration, can we please look at that list of aliens and see if any of them are registered to vote in our state? And the administration has always said no, or they say, well, only under these conditions, and the conditions are impossible to meet. And so for the first time, I expect that this commission may take a state's voter rolls and run it against this database. And let's just see how many known aliens in the United States are actually registered to vote in a given state. And that would be extremely useful data to have. And like I say, we've never had it before. And it is a real problem, at least in Kansas, of non-citizens fraudulently checking the box, I'm a U.S. citizen. Maybe they couldn't even read it and didn't know what they were signing. But bottom line is, if a non-citizen votes, whether it's unintentional or intentional, it cancels out the vote of a U.S. citizen. Why wouldn't we be worried about that if it's occurring either on a small level or a large level nationally?
Let me ask you, the U.S. Supreme Court today, in a statement put out by Chief Justice Roberts, refusing to take up the North Carolina voter ID law, which was struck down by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The left, their bloggers, are going nuts. This is a great victory. Now, while Roberts made no mention of the merits of the case and basically said that this should not be a judgment taken as a judgment of the merits of the law, nonetheless, there's some technical issues involved here. But it seems to me, and I don't think I'm off here, I'm no lawyer, but every time a voter ID law, for the most part, you mentioned Kansas being one of 4 states, goes to the courts, they're struck down. I mean, are they going? Is the opposition, being the left, are they going to wear out people like you and people who just want the right thing to happen?
No, they're not going to wear us out. And we're fighting the ACLU in actually 2 cases right now. I expect that either or both of those cases, there's actually a third one in the D.C. circuit. So 3 possible cases involving Kansas's proof of citizenship law are on their way up through the system. Look, when the Supreme Court takes a case, you can't draw too many conclusions from it. And those on the left who are, running around doing a victory lap because the Supreme Court didn't take this Fourth Circuit case, either they're unaware of the fact that the Supreme Court takes less than 2% of the cases presented to it. So just because they don't take a case doesn't mean that they've expressed a judgment. And, there'll be some more cases involving voter fraud, involving photo ID or proof of citizenship that will be coming up. And I imagine the court will take one again. In 2008, the court approved Indiana's photo ID law. And in 2013, the Supreme Court said that Arizona could have proof of citizenship, but they would have to ask a federal commission to change the federal voter registration form to conform to that. So the Supreme Court has weighed in on this issue, but it's like they always have been. They don't come in on every case.
So that victory lap, might be premature?
Oh, yeah. Very premature.
Yeah.
This case will get to the Supreme Court eventually.
Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for your time. Good luck, and I hope we talk to you along the way when the commission gets started. When will the commission get started?
We expect to have our first meeting within the next 2 months, so Hopefully very soon.
Great. Congratulations again, and thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.